Hurricane Francine barrels towards the Louisiana coastline with life-threatening winds and storm surge and a new tropical depression in the Atlantic. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo. Good to see you on an early Wednesday afternoon. This is a special update. Want to give the newest information on Hurricane Francine and talk about several other areas of potential tropical development and a new tropical depression in the Atlantic. I want everyone to get prepared for what's going on with Francine, and with that in mind, again, a reminder that I will be going live tracking Francine for you here at Meteo Mundo later this afternoon. The live coverage starts at 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time. That is 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time and Atlantic Standard Time. We'll have our live chat up. We'll have the live stream. We'll have live cameras, just like we did with Hurricane Beryl and other systems before that, Hurricane Debbie included. So make sure you join me today, starting at 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time, as we track Francine together as it moves into the Louisiana coastline. Let's get into what's happening right now. Francine is a very powerful hurricane. Winds are 90 miles an hour right now. It still has a very good signature on satellite imagery. It hasn't really begun to encounter that stronger wind shear as of yet. But the hope again is that we have topped off at its maximum strength with winds of 90 miles an hour here. And hopefully it either stays steady or slowly begins to fade in intensity as it moves into the Louisiana coastline. Of note, there was a oil platform southeast of the center that recorded winds. I believe the gust got up to 101 miles an hour, at least in one of these platforms. Looked like this one hit 96. So you get the idea that there are some extremely strong winds coming in with Francine, and all of the numbers that you see are wind gusts in miles an hour. So here on this early Wednesday afternoon along the Louisiana coastline, we're beginning to see the winds freshen up to tropical storm strength. And obviously there's a lot more to come along with that. Weather is just going to continue to go downhill. This is the radar composite. It's very clear to see the center of circulation out of Francine. Let me get rid of these wind radii here. And again, it's continued to track into south central, southeast Louisiana. Hurricane warnings are still in effect from Cameron, Louisiana, eastward to Grand Isle, and then the tropical storm warnings on either side of that, including the New Orleans metro area. The other big threat, of course, is going to be the storm surge, still forecast to be 5 to 10 feet along the south central, southeast Louisiana coastline, and maybe even 4 to 6 feet here in the Lake Pontchartrain area near Metro New Orleans. 4 to 8 inches of rain, a maximum of 12. This area has already had a lot of inundation and water lately, and the storm surge rainfall threat is going to be an issue. We'll obviously keep an eye on these rotating storms and these squalls for potential tornadic activity, but the weather will be going downhill precipitously here in Louisiana and portions of coastal Mississippi throughout the remainder of this Wednesday. Again, all is on track right now, with landfall coming in more than likely the early evening hours here of this Wednesday as it now moves northeast at 13 miles an hour. But again, we had a wind gust here of over 100 miles an hour from an oil platform just southeast of the center of circulation, and the winds are now beginning to pick up to right around 40 miles an hour as Francine continues to move onshore. Again, I'll be live starting at 4 o'clock Central Daylight Time with the latest information on that. Give me just 1 second here, guys. Apologize. Let me load back up the weather computer. It'll take just a half second, and then I want to get into what's happening through the rest of our area. There are several different tropical areas to discuss. The first one I want to talk about is that we do have a new tropical depression. It's formed out of this area here in the far eastern side of the Atlantic, okay? Forecast to become a tropical storm, more than likely our next named storm, obviously. This is the newest track from the Hurricane Center, the first cone here. Over the next 5 days, it is forecast to gain a bit of latitude, and hopefully we'll begin a recurve well away from the Leeward Islands, well away from Bermuda and the U.S. and British Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico. We'll be monitoring that situation. But again, we do have tropical depression number 7 now in the eastern Atlantic. In the central sides of the Atlantic, we have this invest area that will bear watching, but the Hurricane Center does not have this as a high opportunity for development. Right now, Winds are 30 miles an hour with this invest. That's 92L as it works its way off towards the west. We also have invest 94L. Now, basically, we had been watching 92L, but out ahead of this, closer to the Lesser Antilles, we had another area develop here. I'm going to show you this on visible satellite imagery here as well. Give me just 1 second to pull that up. Now, the interesting thing about this one is, although it's beginning to look a little bit better right now, the forecast is for it to encounter very unfavorable conditions tomorrow and begin to dissipate. That's why this yellow area is no farther west than what it is. So although this might be trying to make an approach this weekend into the Lesser Antilles from Dominica north, more than likely it will fizzle out before that actually happens, okay? This is a little bit stronger one that will bear a little bit more in the way of watching. Let's take a look at the models here. We'll start off with the GFS, and I'm going to pull this out over the next week. Also note that there is an area off of the east coast of Florida and the southeast United States in general that is kind of with a week-old frontal boundary, and a non-tropical system could develop kind of just like we had last week as it rides up the United States east coast, but that chance is only going to be 20%. So this is the GFS model with these two systems. And again, it's going to take just a few minutes here for this to fully loop up, but neither of these are extremely concerning to me at this point in time, especially the one farther off towards the west, because again, it's going to be encountering fairly unfavorable upper level winds that should shear it apart. We'll watch out for this one, but you can see on the GFS model here, there's just not a lot to it. At this point in time, there's kind of a wave, if you will, that moves off to the west, but stays very disorganized. So that's good news. I'll monitor the situation there. And of course, for Tropical Depression number 7, this is more than likely going to be our next named storm. And as it tracks to the north and to the northwest, hopefully again, it begins that recurve and stays well to the north. The deterministic model of the GFS, if you notice, is even farther north and west with a quicker turn than what the Hurricane Center has their first cone in. So there are 3 different areas here in the Atlantic to monitor, and I'll certainly do that for the remainder of the week. I do expect there to be some additional rain coming back into the Lesser Antilles, but more than likely these are going to be open waves rather than tropical depression or tropical storm. But again, it's that time of the year where we have to fully monitor the situation. And again, just a huge cluster of showers and storms coming off the southeast United States coast. You can see that spin, and there is an opportunity that we do get some kind of hybrid subtropical system that could wrap its way back into the Carolinas here over the next 3 to 5 days. Be monitoring that for you as well. But again, the Hurricane Center is not highlighting it being a truly tropical system. Looking at the timing here of Francine, and I'm going to go over to our HER model, the high resolution rapid refresh here. Let me start this off in the early afternoon, and we only have to go out to tomorrow. So we're just kind of looking at the potential timing of landfall here with Francine. Again, I mentioned it yesterday that it's going to be encountering shear over the next few hours as it approaches the Louisiana coastline. So there is hope that this has kind of reached its peak at 90-mile-an-hour winds. That being said, hurricane conditions are still likely. Landfall here on the HER model, and again, I don't want to pinpoint an exact hour, but let's just say it could be anywhere from potentially as early as near 5 p.m. Eastern time, which would be, well, let's say 6 p.m. Eastern time, which would be 5 p.m. Central Daylight Time, to more than likely the early evening hours. But again, that track from the HER model is on the eastern envelope of this center here from the National Hurricane Center, which would put more direct impacts into places like the New Orleans area. Again, tropical storm conditions are very likely in New Orleans, and still the potential for some hurricane conditions as well. Francine should dissipate relatively quickly here as it moves into south central sides of Mississippi, but some of these outer squalls on the eastern side, again, we'll be watching out for some tornadic potential as those storms wrap around. So again, quick update here as to what's going on across our area. Expect some showers and storms to redevelop across portions of the greater Antilles for today, Central America, portions of Jamaica, and the northern side of the Bahamas. And again, throughout the week, I'll be monitoring these areas here in the Atlantic as they do try and generally push off towards our west. Once again, a reminder, friends, I'll be live tracking Francine for you here. Coverage starting at 4 p.m. Central Daylight Time, 5 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. Our 24/7 radar will be coming back up in between this video and when I go live starting at that time. So make sure you're a subscriber, make sure you have those notifications on, and I will see you with live coverage of Francine starting then. Until then, friends, stay prepared and have a great rest of your Wednesday.